Hello dear students. Today we are going to take up a new chapter of our book, chapter number 5, Separation of Substances. So before starting this chapter, let us try to understand what are substances and what are the different types of substances that we see in our surrounding. Substances are the matters which occupy space. It may be in the form of a liquid, it may be in the form of a solid, or it may be in the form of a gas. These substances may be of different types. Broadly, we can divide substances into two types. They are pure substances and impure substances. Pure substances are the ones which are made up of only one type of particles, while there are the impure substances which in other term we call them as a mixture. These are the substances which are made up by mixing two or more substances together of different types. The components of the mixture are separated by the help of different separation techniques. The separation of these components are very important because some of the components of a mixture may be poisonous to us or may be unwanted to us. So the separation technique is being applied, is being utilized to separate out the components of the mixture so that we can separate the useful components of the mixture and the unuseful components of the mixture. In some other cases, all the components present in the mixtures, they have their own uses. So in order to utilize these components separately in a particular field, the components of the mixtures are separated. Let us say, for examples, the components of petroleum. When we say petroleum, petroleum is a mixture of different types of components like that of the petrol, kerosene, diesels. All these components have their own uses in different fields. So when we separate these components of the petroleum, we can utilize each and every component in their own way. So because of this reason, we try to separate the components of the mixture. So in this chapter, we are going to learn about some separation techniques that are very common and that are used in our day-to-day life in home or anywhere. So let us see one by one some of the separation techniques. The most common and a simple method of separation technique that we use in our home is the hand picking. The hand picking process is utilized to separate out a slightly bigger size impurities from the other components. Like for example, when we brought dal from the market, in some of the dal there used to be small pieces of stones which are of different texture, which are of different nature and characteristic from the dal. So such type of impurities like that of the stones, we can separate it out by the help of the hand picking. The hand picking technique cannot be applied in the particles which are very small and which are difficult to pick up by our hand. It is utilized only to those impurities which are bigger in size and can be separated out and can be picked out by our hand easily. So this is the first separation technique that we are discussing now. Now let us pick up the next separation technique. The next separation technique is threshing. Threshing is an agricultural practice to separate out the grain from the stalk of the plant. During harvesting, we utilize the process of threshing to separate out the grain from the stalk of the plant. It is considered as one of the most important separation techniques because the separation of the grain from the stalk is very important. If the grain and the stalk are mixed together, then it used to reduce the quality of the grain, and above that, it used to increase the chance for damaging the grain. So because of that reason, the threshing process is utilized during the agricultural practice. Now, let us take up the next separation technique. The next separation technique is known as winnowing. Winnowing process is utilized to separate out the components of the mixture in which one of the component is lighter in weight while the other component is heavier. So during this separation technique, the mixture is allowed to fall from a certain height. During that time, wind will be blown. The air or the wind will be blown. During this process, the heavier particles will not be able to be blown by the wind. Due to that reason, it used to directly fall on the ground, while the lighter component used to get blown away by the wind and it used to fall somewhat far away from the heavier particles. So in this way, the heavier particles and the lighter particles of a mixture can be separated by the help of the winnowing process. This winnowing process is utilized in different fields. It is utilized even in the agricultural practice also. After the harvesting of the grain, after the grains are being dried, some of the dust particles or some of the dry leaf or stalk that is present along with the grain can be separated out by the help of this winnowing process. During that time, the heavier grain will be falling down directly on the floor, while the lighter dust particle or the dry leaf or the dry stalk will be blown away by the wind, and it will be collected far away from the grain. So in this way, the winnowing process is utilized in the agricultural practice also. So now, let us take up the next separation technique. The next separation technique is known as sieving. Sieving is utilized in order to separate the bigger size impurities from the smaller size component of a mixture which is useful to us. During this process, a substance known as sieve is utilized. A sieve actually it is a net-like structure which can be made of plastic or which can be made of metallic substance or metallic rod. So in this sieve, when we pour the mixture, the smaller size components of the mixture which is useful to us will be passing through the sieve easily, while the bigger size impurities will be trapped or will be present separated by the help of the sieve, and it will be collected, it will be thrown out. So the process of sieving is utilized in different fields, especially to separate the unwanted or the impurities present in the wheat flour before making the food items by using the wheat. It is also used in the construction site to separate out the fine particles of the sand from the small stones or pebbles or any other unwanted substance. So sieving is also one of the most important techniques, separation technique, that is utilized by us to separate out different components of the mixture. Now, let us come to the next separation technique. The next separation technique is the sedimentation process. Sedimentation process actually it is done to separate the bigger size particles or the heavier size particles from the lighter particles by dissolving, by mixing it in water. So here, when we take a mixture and put it in a glass tumbler, and when we fill the tumbler with water, at that time the bigger size particles or the heavier particles will be settling at the bottom of the container, while the lighter particles will be floating on the surface of the water. So when we give this solution or this mixture undisturbed for some duration of time, we can separate out the lighter particles and the heavier particles easily. So the heavier particles will be settling at the bottom, while the lighter particles will be floating at the top of the solution. So in this way, the sedimentation process is being done. Now, following this sedimentation, there is one other separation technique. Let's go through that. After the process of sedimentation, we perform the process of decantation. During this process of decantation, we used to pour out the water along with the lighter dust particle or the other impurities that is present to separate it out from the heavier or the useful particles. So this is done by tilting or by slanting the tumbler. So that the heavier particles will be still settling at the bottom of the container, while the water along with the dust particle or the lighter particle can be poured out of this container. So sedimentation and decantation, they used to go together. After the process of sedimentation, we used to perform the process of decantation so that the lighter particles and the heavier particles can be separated out. Now, let us come to the last separation technique for today. Today we are going to take out one more separation technique. The other separation technique we are going to discuss in the next video class. Now, let us take up the last separation technique for today. The last separation technique for today is the filtration process. The filtration process is done in order to separate out the liquid component of a mixture and the solid component of mixture. Means the mixture which contains a liquid and a solid component. So in order to separate out this liquid and the solid component of the mixture, we utilize the process of filtration. The filtration process is done by passing the solution or the mixture through a strainer or a filter paper. So during this process, here a separate simple filtration process. I am going to explain it. So here I have taken a funnel and a beaker or any type of container. In this funnel we are going to put a filter paper, and through this, on this we are going to pour the mixture. When we pour the mixture, the liquid component of the mixture will be passing through this filter paper and it will be collected in the container, while the solid component of the mixture will be collected here. It will not be allowed to pass through the filter paper. It cannot pass. Because of that, it will get collected here. So in this way, the solid component of the mixture can be separated out from the liquid component of the mixture. So the filtration process, it is utilized in our day-to-day life also. Suppose when you enter in the kitchen for making a tea, after making the tea, you separate the tea leaf by using a strainer. So that separation of the liquid tea from the tea leaves by the help of a strainer, it is also a process of filtration. So the process of filtration is utilized in our day-to-day life. So all these 7 different processes that we discussed today, we use in our day-to-day life for performing different type of activities. So these are the things that we studied today. So in the next video class, we will come up with more separation techniques. So for today, let us wind up here, dear students. Thank you.